He fouled Asar. It's bad. I mean, clear. He trips him when he's going for a loose ball. In the game situation, that's tough.
Well, the 2-minute report came out, and before I even read it, JB was outraged. Pistons fans were outraged. Jim Costa and John Jansen, not terribly outraged. They were saying, like, hey, you were up by 9. Finish the game. You're grown men. Up by 9 with 3 minutes left to go. Finish that damn game. Justin Termini, our buddy from SiriusXM NBA Radio, we were texting each other at 10:26 yesterday morning, cussing each other out, but I only shared one snippet of that conversation on social media. But after that, he had this video about the non-call.
Can somebody tell me what a foul is? A foul's a foul. A foul took place right in front of Tony Brothers. He's looking at it. That is a series-altering no call because Detroit's not going to come back and win 2 games. They're not going to win on the road in Cleveland to force a Game 7 and then win a Game 7 against a very experienced Cleveland team, even if it's on their home floor. So that is series-altering. That is legacy-altering in a positive way for guys like James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, who advanced to the conference finals with one more victory. If that call happens right in front of you, you have to make that call. A foul is a foul because that altered who wins that game. That altered who wins the series. So that is just a massive, epic fail by Tony Brothers and the officials. But let's be honest. You got to make that call there. Tony Brothers and the officials not making that call. Absolutely brutal.
That's audio courtesy of the Termini Crashes Out podcast. And you can play this for Justin. Of all the dumb things he's ever said, that was the dumbest. And think of the territory that takes in. This is what I love about this. And the 2-minute report came out, and it says that there were no missed calls in the final 2 minutes of that game. And I loved it, and I champions posed it, and I'm sure you were excited about it. I love this, that this is common sense. There's still room for common sense in professional sports. Guys, part of it, and record this for posterity because it will come back and get us at some point. It's professional sports. We're all going to have to take one on the chin at some point. You know that tone. But time is evaporating. He's on your side of the floor. He might be able to force up a crazy shot. It's the playoffs. It's the playoffs. And let's call it what it is. It's an entertainment business. What do you think that they would say about the NBA in general? Had that been called and they send Ausar Thompson to the line with 0.7 seconds left, think about the credibility of the league. Seriously, think about the credibility of the league. You take the game out of the players' hands. No, you gave up the 9-point lead. You go win it in overtime now. We're not doing this. And by the way, there were plenty of people saying, well, you look what Ausar Thompson did. He grabbed him by the arm as well. Like, there could have been a foul on that. No missed calls because it's common sense, Tone. And I got to tell you, JB Bickerstaff sounds really weak this morning, hearing all that, reading all that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, specifically, they say that Thompson and Allen legally stepped to the same spot while pursuing the loose ball before either player has possession and both lose their balance from the marginal contact, which is what Tony Brothers said to the pool reporter afterwards. He said, and yeah, we'll get it confirmed when we look at the 2-minute report, which is exactly what happened. And there was some outrage in the hours, after that game. The wrong team won. This was egregious mistake, when all was said and done. And I was glad that, cooler heads have seemed to prevail because as we get further away, I heard Zach Lowe yesterday. He argued with Howard Beck, who we've had on the show, because Howard's like, I think you got to call it. And Zach's like, are we sure?
Of course, Howard Beck thought you had to call it.
But Zach Lowe said, are we sure that Thompson didn't foul him first? Are we sure he even tripped over Allen first? Looked like he tripped on his own foot first. So it seems to me that as we've gotten further away, people have been like, this is very questionable at the very least. And, on the other side of things, could even have been a foul on Detroit. So in the end, you never call this.
Exactly. And I'm not even trying to go over here going, well, maybe it was a foul on Detroit.
No.
I know we bring that up for reference, but it highlights that's why you don't call it. because it is the playoffs. And I heard Danny Green on Baskin and Phelps says, yeah, maybe in February they call that. I don't even know if February they do. You got a packed house here. It's a big game. It would still be a big game because they're both top 4 seeds in the NBA in the Eastern Conference. So it's probably a game that people are paying attention to. People, you pay money to go watch a guy at the charity stripe at the end of a basketball game.
Had they you've got to go over the inverse. Had they have sent him to the free throw line, that is the story.
Yes.
This was like maybe one of 30 things we talk about. I know there was discussion about an egregious lane violation by James Harden in overtime. Well, they didn't box him out. I mean,
bingo.
Detroit,
thank you. Thank you.
When have I ever seen a lane violation called in the playoffs, and especially in overtime for a shooter? Normally, the shooter's getting boxed out, so there's not even an attempt at a lane violation.
Exactly.
So think about what the inverse would have been. I think in the end, we're not going to look back at this and say that cost Detroit the game of the series.
And think about who it is. If it's any other name that we don't know, I don't know if it's being brought up as much. But because it's Tony Brothers, and because he's a well-known referee, and because I don't put him in Angel Hernandez territory or C.B. Buckner territory or even Joey Crawford territory.
He rates as one of their best officials.
But he's well-known, and people see him on the camera, and when they're going to the table, and he's seen as a bit of a curmudgeon, and he is. It seems to be that way. People don't like him. And so when you see that it's Tony Brothers, people go, oh, here we go. If it's any other guy that you really didn't know about, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But because it's him, because it is at the end of a game, and I just think, what if they do call it? What are people saying about the NBA if they do call that? Game of soft, Ben.
Right.
Game
That's
of a
100%.
soft league. What has happened to the game I love?
So Detroit,
you have to protect the league as well as the game if you're a referee, and don't act like we don't know that.
Big bad Detroit, where it's always been about black and blue games when you go to Detroit and the bad boy era. So to hear them talk about the Cavs have been too forceful and too physical in this series, and they're getting away with it, like that is so fresh. You guys won a title. That title that they won over the Lakers, the old Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, and Shaq were dissolving. Like they fouled on every play. That was what they were known for. Sitting courtside at that game were some of the all-time Ben Wallace, some of the great physical all-time defensive players. And you guys wanted that to be a foul. That is fresh coming from that city and that team.
And let me ask you this. Did JB, because that might have been able to fly here. We don't have the type of history that they have. Let's call it what it is. We didn't have Rick Mahorn.
Right.
We didn't have Lambeer and the Bad Boys, okay? Did he forget the team he coaches? Because they pride themselves on that. There's murals all over the city of that type of team.
Kind of felt like it all went out the window with that barrage of complaints afterwards.
You look weak.
Sitting there complaining about officials when you were supposed to be the tough team.
Chuck Daly is rolling in his grave. His hair is still perfect, but he's rolling in his grave.
And thinking about the fact that the whole discussion is one of their tough guys, do they bring him off the bench now in Duren? Like, think about how the tide has swung, and that is why part of the reason the Cavs are now in the great spot of being able to close them out at home.
I totally agree, and I think JB looks really weak this morning. I think he looks really weak and feckless by the complaining that went on at the end of that game. Because I can go at the 2-minute report, and we could say whether we believe it or not, because you always said the 2-minute report doesn't make anybody feel any better. They don't give you the win. Doesn't matter. But it is fun to go over, especially when it went your way. But at the same time, like let's say what it is. It's grown men. You wouldn't have been able to deal with it. There would have been some crazy parent on the floor at a CYO basketball game on a Saturday morning had that call been made. Let alone Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semis.
Think about how things have gotten away from the Pistons, that they're sitting there saying Cavs are too physical, and they wanted lane violations and fouls on incidental contact 70 feet away to gift them a victory. Think about your state of affairs for your former number 1 seed.
Sure as hell killed that narrative. That whole soft narrative. Holy God. Are the Cavs too tough?
Too tough.
216-474.
I'm the bad boy.
90092.
Joey, that's your title for this segment. Are the Cavs too tough?
Are the Cavs too tough?
And make sure it's TOO.
JB Bickerstaff coming off weak. Like he doesn't understand the history of the team he coaches. It's a sad day for him. Well, yesterday was a sad day. He's got to pick up the pieces and move on because he's got to avoid being closed out tonight. I do think the Cavs win tonight. We'll get to ageism being real with your Cleveland Browns at 7:22 this morning. Also, we have a market watch for Game 6. You're going to be very interested in this coming up at 7:22. And there is a caveat to the tickets that somebody sent us yesterday. But we're not getting tickets, but if you're getting tickets, there's a caveat to it that we will give you coming up at around 7:22 this morning. 216-474-0092. I do think that JB, in the 2-minute report, I think a lot of common sense has prevailed. I think it's a great day for professional sports after that, where I think that anybody who's been saying that it's a foul and it should have been to the line, I just think you're kind of a busybody. I think you're kind of a Barney Fife. I think that you are... I just don't think you live in the real world. I don't think you do. And guys, someday, if we all do this long enough, the laws of sports, all these comments you will have to answer to, because it's going to happen to us. It might happen tonight, may not happen for 5 years, but at some point it's going to happen to us, and I am convinced I will stay the same way. It's the final seconds of a basketball game. I really don't care. I said it was because part of it is the NBA. They are protecting the NBA. I do think that's true. But I think in so many ways, come on. You guys going into work, and it's easy to say this because we're Cavs fans for the most part. But you know this. You're getting ready. You're getting in your truck, getting in your car. You're going into work. You know damn well, if you play pickup basketball, you watch basketball, you've been a fan of basketball, you know as a man, you're going to put a guy at the line in the final seconds of a basketball, with less than 1 second in a basketball game, you're going to put him at the line to shoot free throws to win the game. Of the fighting that's gone on,
you know what?
The strategy that's gone on, we're going to do a simple questionable foul. Like if he would have went up there and slugged him, like, yeah, put him on the line, we got to do what we got to do. Of that, we know better.
It's the equivalent of in the Super Bowl, or I guess I should say Super Bowl.
We're American men. We know better.
In a playoff NFL game, calling pass interference on a Hail Mary. That's what it is.
Exactly.
And when do we ever do that?
We don't.
We don't. Even guys get mauled. We don't call
it. They do. People make the videos all the time. A guy's basically getting choked out in the end zone, and nobody, because you don't call it. You don't call it because it's silly. And if you did, I think, honestly, if Tony Brothers or anybody would have blown the whistle, how do you get out of that? Do you just say it wasn't a foul? Like you probably go, oh, God, I've made a terrible mistake. I think that they would do that in Senate League basketball, let alone the NBA. And so to hear him complain, hey, it's therapeutic for me. My team's up 3-2, and my team looks tougher than yours now. And my team, yeah, there's been tough guys who played for the Cavs, but my team doesn't have a whole documentary made about punching people in the face like the Detroit Pistons do. I'm feeling real good as a Cavs fan right now. 216-474-0092. I want to get to James Harden here in just a moment. Let me get to Denise in Cleveland. She is first up on the fan. Hello, Denise.
Good morning.
Morning to you, Denise. Go right on ahead.
Listen, I'm a Cavs fan through and through. I think I'm one of the few people here in Cleveland that love the Cavs over the Browns. So I'm going to always be here to, put it down for my Cavs. First of all, Bickerstaff was here, so we know him. We know that he can't win the game. That's why we chose to go in a different direction. He always have had the propensity to blame everything outside of him except he never says what he's done wrong. Your team blew a 9-point lead.
I think
at the end of the game.
I'm sorry, Denise. You broke up. You broke up there for a second. Let me go back with the JB stuff. I do think that JB is a good coach. I think he's a good builder. I think that it's been a couple times over with the Cavs. He didn't really get a chance the first time around in his previous stop before that, and now you have it here with Detroit. I can't help but agree with you because you've been to the postseason now.
To me, he's a good in-season coach. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the big games, he always finds a way to coach himself out of it. Explain how your team blew a 9-point lead with basically 2 minutes to go. That's not the refs. That's you. And you need to accept responsibility instead of being on TV whining like a baby because somebody didn't bring me my ball. Boy, get over it.
Denise, thank you very much for the call. I think I'll take it even one step further, not even being mean-spirited about it. I think he gets lost in the moment. I think he gets lost in the emotions of it. And
he's turned into the boy who cried wolf.
Part of his job, I understand, is playing a bad guy to the refs and going after the refs for calls. Somehow, it's just the way it goes. I've never understood it. but I think he gets bogged down with the minutia of the refs and doesn't focus on the situation. Again, with the blown timeout the other night with him. And you still had Kenny with his timeouts to the point where we were critical of him for not using the one timeout at the end. And he answered that question.
Yeah.
But he misses on those type of things, and we've seen that before.
I would also say, like, the smart ball knowers, Kenny, have started to break down the profile of the players. And so what do we know about Donovan Mitchell? He has had monstrous free throw games in the playoffs. James Harden, his whole career. You know, and that's certainly, we shine a light on that because it's controversial, and for good reason. A lot of it is controversial, whether or not he gets the 50-50 landing area call. But you go to the other side, and it's a Detroit team with, when they are going right, what is it? It's Tobias Harris, turnaround jump shot, off balance.
Yep.
Karis LeVert, off balance, turnarounds. Cade Cunningham is somebody who plays a little bit more power, but he also settles for a lot of mid-range game. And what do we know about the mid-range game in the NBA? Not conducive to getting to the free throw line. So you start to examine the profile, and it actually, as you take a broader view of things, kind of makes sense. Yeah, the Cavs would be a team. Oh, you want to add another dimension? What is Detroit? What were they the leaders in the NBA this year? Fouling. They fouled the most of any team in the NBA. So it creates this perfect storm of a free throw discrepancy over time that actually is fairly logical.
I wonder if they come out tonight and they try to do what we've tried to do to them, which I wonder if they try to play really hard in the paint, kind of damn the torpedoes, drive, because Donovan was settling for too much, and then in game 4 he said, listen, I got to do this. I have to drive the lane. I have to try to play the inside-out stuff. That's what I'm going to have to do. James Harden took it to a different level, and I wanted to bring up James Harden here because I want to get to Louis Riddick, of all people, his tweets coming up here in a moment. Danny Green, though, former Cavalier, he was on Baskin and Phelps yesterday. He was talking about James Harden and kind of the difference that he makes with this Cleveland Cavaliers team and how good of a fit he actually is.
I think James is a great fit for this team if he plays the way we know he's capable of. That's the only issue, right? People have issue with him that his production, his aggressiveness drops in the playoffs. Biggest thing for me is just, if you just play solid and don't turn the ball over, that'll give your team a plus. Like, I don't expect him to do much at this point. I mean, a lot of people don't. But I think he's a really good fit. As you can see, like, when he's playing well and those other guys thrive, it opens up the floor for Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They get easy baskets, easy dunks. He also can score, but he's a great facilitator. He's one of very few guys that will adjust his game from being an elite scorer to an elite point guard passer and being a system. So I think he's a great fit and allow Don to be off the ball some and also not exert as much energy.
So that's a basketball guy. That's a former player. You hear a lot of that about James Harden from former players. Louis Riddick was a former football player who clearly has, I sent you guys that clip when I was on the boat. He clearly has an interest in the NBA, in the game. And he was watching that game. He's a former Cleveland Brown, former general manager. This is read what Louis Riddick was writing the other night about James Harden.
Yes, that Harden's flopping around on the ground like that after trying to con the refs into calling a foul is such an effing joke. It's so bad, Riddick tweeted.
Did he write the actual word?
EFFING.
Oh, okay.
Look,
there are people keep sending us the clip of the guy from the Rockets ripping on James Harden. At least they kept doing it when after the first 2 games of this series where it looked like he couldn't play the game of basketball anymore. There is a hate that people watch with him.
Oh, yeah.
And they want the Cavaliers to lose. And you used to hate watching.
I used to be, up until a trade in February, I was on board with that hatred. And it sucks. Like, it's a really, really tough aspect of the game. You got to harken back to the Zaza Pachulia play that led to all this with Kawhi Leonard and took Kawhi out of a series and ended the San Antonio Spurs' chances at continuing on with their greatness. And it was a very, very, and it's a delicate issue in the NBA because shooters, with all the injuries that happened, they tried to protect the shooters. So the theory is, all right, the shooters have a shooting motion when they go up in the air. Some go a little more forward. Mark Price would have feasted in this day and age. Mark Price would jump about a foot ahead of himself. And so the landing area is a tough thing to try to litigate on a play-by-play basis. And there's no doubt James Harden has made a career over having that area and exaggerating the landing spot. The flip side of this is, on no planet is Detroit telling Tobias Harris anything other than be careful about the landing area. And there's one thing he has not done in this series is he's not been careful. he's been almost brain dead around the landing area. Like, you're guarding James Harden. James is not a speedster. You're Tobias Harris and you've got that length. Most likely they are coaching him to, hey, make sure the last thing you do is fumble over your closeout and be awkward in that area, in your technique. And yet James Harden's really good at getting guys to hover around him, having guys think that they can take the ball from him, and then when you least expect it, he's going to go up for the jumper, and then you're in his landing area. I mean, James Harden has been on the ground like 15 times in this series.
I think this explains the entire James Harden experience since he left Oklahoma City. He was the third guy on that team, and he was so much fun, and you saw this player that blossom into an MVP caliber player, and people love that team. People love that Oklahoma City team. Durant, I was the biggest Russell Westbrook fan that you had known at that time. Remember, we talked about it. We had everything there, and it got broken up. And ever since then, James Harden has kind of been like, I'm not going to be in the Daryl Morey stuff. Ever since really Daryl Morey, he's like, I'm not going to be messing around with any of these teams anymore. I'm not trusting any of these teams anymore. And when you watch James Harden play for your team, you absolutely love it. And then it always ends ugly, and you hate James Harden more than you ever thought you could hate a basketball player in your entire life. Because him playing for you, when people watch him, it's one of the most frustrating things ever. But when he's going to the line for you, when he's doing some of the things he does for you, it's some of the most fun because you're winning the basketball games and you know it's upsetting people more than they can even believe that you're winning the basketball game against them. And then, obviously, he gets a little bit upset with management and things go the way they go. That is the entire James Harden experience. I'm living through the good part of it right now. At some point, we'll probably get to the bad part, hopefully later than earlier. But, yeah, it is one of those quintessential Jack Parkman change of a jersey. What does it do for a guy? And here we are, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And thank God the first two games, instead of the last few games, he's been fantastic, and he wasted the bad games at the beginning of the series when we were figuring out the Detroit Pistons.